Hello everyone, this is Sharon here from 24/7 Techie, and this is actually a special video that I am doing. This is because I've got a lot of demand for best phone under 10,000 rupees, and I've been suggesting the Redmi Note 3 32GB variant. A lot of people replied that the budget is strictly 10,000 and they cannot expand it to 12,000. So I started to research and I got to know that the Le1s is usually available for 10,000. Like on Flipkart, there are a lot of sales in the launch sale as well, and on a regular basis 10% off, so it's about 9,900. So that is below 10,000. And another phone is the Redmi Note 3 16GB variant. So this was launched for 10,000 rupees and this is usually available for 10,000. So in this video we will be comparing these two phones. So now we'll get started with the comparison of these two phones. So do remember guys that we are comparing the 16GB model with the Le1s, specifically the 16GB model. First of all, it is under 10,000 rupees. Second of all, it is easily available compared to the 32GB model. So that's why specifically I have chosen the 16GB model, as it is a little bit easier to buy and the availability is also decent. And in this video we will get to know how the 16GB model actually react and if it's really very big different from the 32GB model. I've already done a video regarding the 32GB model versus the 16GB model in the multitasking and the RAM management point of view. You can surely check that out as well, but in this video we will be comparing these two phones. So first of all, we will get rid of the specs of the phone. You can see in front of you the specs of the phones are mentioned. Both the phones have dual 4G SIM card slots, but in the Redmi Note 3 we have an option of a hybrid SIM card slot. So the second SIM card slot can be used as a memory card, and we can use it as a single 4G SIM card plus memory card. And when we compare it to the Le1s, which does not have any memory card slot, it's dual 4G SIM cards only. Both the phones have 5.5-inch Full HD screens, and the Le1s has officially told that it is protected by Gorilla Glass 3, but Xiaomi has not mentioned what type of protection the Redmi Note 3 is having. And in these specific models, the Le1s is the 32GB internal storage, as we don't have any other model, and the Redmi Note 3 that we have is the 16GB of internal storage. The Le1s has 3GB of RAM, the Redmi Note 3 has 2GB of RAM, so no expandable slot on the Le1s, hybrid slot on the Redmi Note 3. And in the camera point of view, 13MP rear camera plus a 5MP front camera on the Le1s, whereas on the Redmi Note 3 we have a 16MP rear camera plus a 5MP front camera. In the battery point of view, the Le1s comes with 3000 mAh battery equipped with fast charging, and the Redmi Note 3 comes with 4050 mAh battery, and Xiaomi told that it's equipped with a fast charging 1.0, which is not actually fast enough. In the processors point of view, the Le1s is powered by MediaTek Helio X10 octa-core processor clocked at 2.2 GHz, whereas the Redmi Note 3 is running on the Snapdragon 650 hexa-core processor at 1.8 GHz. It is actually 2 cores are at 1.8 and the rest 4s are underclocked. So after the specs of the phone, we'll get to know about the dimensions of the phone. As you can see on your screen, the Le1s is actually narrower with 74.2mm compared to the 76mm of the Redmi Note 3. But in the lengthwise, the Redmi Note 3 is only 150mm compared to the 151.1mm on the Le1s. The thickness of both the phones are quite a lot different. That is mainly because of the battery, because the thickness on the Le1s is 7.5mm compared to the Redmi Note 3's 8.7mm. But surprisingly and ironically, the weight on the Redmi Note 3 is less compared to the Le1s. So as you can see, both the phones there is 5 grams of difference. Not a lot, but there is 5 grams of difference, and this could be maybe because of the better quality or more premium quality of metal used on the Le1s. As we come to the physical overview of the phone, as you can see at the right of both the phones, we have the same button configuration, the volume rockers plus the power button. At the top of the phone, both the phone has the IR blasters, the 3.5mm headphone jack. The Redmi Note 3's secondary noise cancelling microphone is at the top, and the Le1s is at the back. At the right of the phone, we see both the phones have the SIM card slot. So as you can see, the SIM card configuration, so the Redmi Note 3 has an memory card. The second slot is the hybrid SIM card slot, and in the LeTv Le1s we can see that these both are dual SIM card slots, so no micro SD card or no hybrid SIM card slot. We actually hate the hybrid SIM card slot, but it is still better than these slots that we have on the Le1s. So in the Redmi Note 3 we have 16 gigs of internal storage, which can be expanded like this. So the first slot is definitely for a nano SIM card, and the second can be used as a SIM card slot or a micro SD card slot. So this tells you that the second one is the hybrid SIM card slot. And at the bottom of the phone we can see that there is a little bit of difference over here. So the loudspeaker of the Redmi Note 3 is at the back, so we don't have anything at the bottom. We just have the micro USB port plus a primary microphone, whereas in the Le1s we have a lot of things happening. We have a USB Type-C port plus a dual grill, where one of them is the microphone and the other one is this loudspeaker. So as you can see, both the phones at the back are metallic, where some part of the phones are plastic so that the signals from the antenna can pass through. Both the phones have their fingerprint sensors at the back. So the Le1s has a single LED flash at the back compared to the dual LED flash on the Redmi Note 3. The fingerprint sensors are at the back. The loudspeaker on the Redmi Note 3 is at the bottom. So in the screen point of view, both the phones are having 5.5 inch Full HD screens, but the Le1s has a little bit of a darker screen, where the blacks looks a little bit better compared to the Redmi Note 3, but the Redmi Note 3 has a lot brighter screen compared to the Le1s for sure. And this is in broad daylight testing. So as you can see, there is a little bit of difference over here. So now when we talk about the cameras of both the phones, so as you can see, the side by side comparison of the pictures. So as you can see in most of the pictures, the Redmi Note 3 is actually performing a little bit better, and especially in the HDR mode, the Redmi Note 3 performs a lot better. But in auto mode, it is similar performance. As you can see in the HDR, it was much better. In this is the best one if you see the comparison. So now if we talk about the battery life of the phone, we have a drastic difference. So the Redmi Note 3 can last you over 6 hours of screen on time on a very heavy usage like me. I've posted it on Twitter a lot of times about the screen on time and the battery life on this phone, and it is amazing. The 4050 mAh battery plus the optimization of the Snapdragon 650, the battery life is just amazing. And when we compare it with the Le1s, we are actually very disappointed compared to the Redmi Note 3, as the battery on this is for 3000 mAh, and it will give you an average screen on time of 3.5 hours to 4 hours of screen on time. But the major advantage of having this is the USB Type-C with fast charging. So this phone will take you about 2 to 2.5 hours to fully charge, but this phone will full charge in 70 minutes. And this is 0 to 100 that we are talking about, not 20 to 100 or anything. This is from 0 to 100 it will take about 2.5 hours, and from 0 to 100 it will take about 70 minutes. So the charging time varies a lot. Fast charging on this phone is amazing because the Redmi Note 3 doesn't really support fast charging. A fast charging point does comes in the Le1s, but the Redmi Note 3 has a lot better battery life on a daily usage point of view. So this is a side-by-side comparison of the gaming of these two phones. So the gaming performance on these two phones are amazing. And now when we check the temperatures of both the phones, so the Le1s does gets a little bit hot, about 40 degrees Celsius, but the Redmi Note 3 is 36 degrees Celsius on an average. Neither phone are getting very hot, but these are normal temperatures for sure. So now when we come to the in-hand feel of the phones, so the in-hand feel of both the phones are a lot different because both the phones have actually gone with a little bit of a different design. So in the Redmi Note 3 we can see that the design is a little bit of a roundish, so that it fits a lot better in hand. Le1s has gone with the chamfered edges, which are actually a little bit uncomfortable to hold, but the Le1s is actually made a little bit narrower compared to this, about 1 mm less. So it actually feels a little bit comfortable. So in the in-hand feel of both the phones, it actually varies. It actually depends on you. I actually prefer this as in-hand feel because the material used on this actually feels a lot premium compared to this metal. So this metal actually feels a lot premium. I've already said this in my previous video and I will say that again. that this is a good quality metal, but not as premium as this metal for sure. Now we'll talk about the cases and aftermarket development regarding these phones. So this is a thing that I actually like to talk about. I do a lot of survey before doing this. So in the cases point of view, I did go to a lot of websites like Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, and each and every site, even eBay India, and I searched for a lot of cases regarding both the phones, and the cases are available on them. And another thing is that the cases are actually available in the local store as well, 100-150 rupees. I actually bought this case for the LE1s for about 80 rupees from the local store. So this actually works pretty well with this. Actually it looks also very good. And for the Redmi Note 3, Xiaomi is supplying official cases, which is just 300 rupees and feels a lot good. But another thing is that Xiaomi is a very big brand in India now, and everyone considers it as a good brand, not a Chinese brand, but a brand. So I actually went to the local stores after about 5 days of Xiaomi Redmi Note 3's first sale, and the cases and the tempered glass were available for it quite easily. That tells us that Xiaomi has been recognized in India, because after getting LE1s after its sale for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I was not able to find anything for the LE1s, but when we compare it with this, it is quite a different story for Xiaomi right now. In the cases point of view right now, both the phones are equal, because you can get anything in the local store, online, on the websites, anywhere. And if we talk about the development, the custom ROMs and everything, here is where a lot of things changes. So out of the box, the Redmi Note 3 will have a locked bootloader, and it is very difficult to unlock it. You actually have to apply for a code, and they've actually updated their website. When I imported the Redmi Note 3 from China, the MediaTek variant, the unlocking process was just impossible, especially for India, because there will be a text message that will come with the unlock code in about 10 days of applying. And at that time India was not the country that can apply, but right now I have already applied for the unlock code of this phone. Hopefully I get it in a week or so. And the bootloader for this is locked. So I've already seen a couple of custom recoveries available for this phone, a couple of root access also available for this phone. Not any custom ROMs available for this phone, but in India it's selling very nicely, so I can expect good custom ROMs for this phone very soon. Xiaomi won't be releasing the kernel sources very soon. I don't really expect that from them right now. But if we talk about the LE1s regarding the aftermarket development, it has been a pretty different story. The LeTv didn't release the kernel sources of the phone, and when it was sold in China, no one was really interested in making anything for this. There are actually a couple of good ROMs for it, but it is not very stable, first of all. Second of all, the fingerprint sensor on that ROMs doesn't work. So if the fingerprint sensor doesn't work, I'm not really very interested on that phone. Why would you have a fingerprint sensor then? It has been in market for over 1.5 months, and we have not seen any good custom ROM for this, and I am really very doubtful if we will see anything good for this. But I really do think that Redmi Note 3 will have the decent ROMs coming in a month or two, but for the LE1s, I'm still very doubtful. If it does comes, you will be seeing it on my channel for sure. So now when we talk about the final thoughts regarding these two phones, I am pretty confused, because the RAM management on this phone, the performance on this phone, the gaming performance on this phone is good, but the day-to-day performance is a little bit on a sluggish point of view because of the bad RAM management. But on the LE1s, the performance is amazing, and daily performance is also pretty amazing. So don't judge these phones by the benchmark. One of them scores over 70,000 and one scores about 55,000. But the daily performance is actually pretty good on this. Daily fluidity and everything is actually good on this, and there's no hiccups or anything. It also runs each and every game very decently, and the Snapdragon 650 is actually much more powerful compared to the Helio X10. But the problem is that RAM management on the Redmi Note 3 isn't really that good compared to the LE1s. The RAM management on the Redmi Note 3 3GB variant is actually pretty good, but it is about 12,000, so it's 2,000 extra, and a lot of people are on very tight budget. So 10,000 means 10,000, and LE1s does comes on a lot of sales. It comes for about 10,000 in a lot of sales on a regular basis, but the Redmi Note 3 3GB variant is not affordable for a lot of people if they're on 10,000 rupees budget. So in my final thoughts, I am actually very confused. Both the phones are amazing, both the phones have their pros and cons, but the main thing is that you have to decide if you want a good battery life and a better camera, and sacrifice a little bit on the daily usage compared to the average battery life. A decent camera, not very good and not bad as well now after the updates, but on the daily performance and no hiccups and everything, the Le1s does perform better. So you have to decide which one of them you would go. In my personal choice, I am using the Redmi Note 3 as my daily driver right now, because only because of the battery life. The battery life on this phone is amazing, but I have used the Le1s as my daily driver for over a month, and I must say that this is an amazing phone for 10,000 11,000 rupees for whatever you get. Yes, the Redmi Note 3 is decent phone, but the 2GB variant is a little bit of disappointment in the RAM management and performance point of view compared to the Le1s. So thank you guys for watching this video. This was Sharon here from 24/7 Techie, and comparing the Redmi Note 3 2GB variant with the Le1s. And don't forget to like this video and share this video. It tells us that you like our hard work, and do subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, guys. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I really hope to see you in my next video. Till then, see ya.